Should I start, or I'm confused? Okay. Welcome very, very much to Conversation. It's a great pleasure to welcome to the program a young man who's got a very interesting take on things. His name is Jake Ruehl, and he is a person who is in this sending of the immediate election season here in the United States, who's doing some things in support of Bernie Sanders, and he's a very thoughtful young man. And Jake, welcome so much to Conversation.
Thank you for having me.
We've been chatting and so forth about the human condition and all that sort of thing, but I wonder if you could, without going into great detail, relatively, your background.
Basically, I grew up partially in New York City, grew up partially in Sag Harbor, and have done a lot of traveling in between.
You've done a lot of traveling, yeah. You're only 18, if I'm right.
I am.
You have the bearing of a rather older man with the wisdom that comes forth from your aura, you know.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was going to say you can get away with a lot more looking older, but but that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Where did you travel?
Honestly, whenever something comes up, whether it's like upstate New York or California, if I have a friend there who would put me up and I'm able to do it, I try my best to do it.
So you have to crash around. You don't have unlimited flying miles at all the major airlines and first class, luxury hotels all over the world that you can go from one to the other.
I would very much appreciate that. No, well, I spent last semester in London studying with St. Lawrence University as a part of University College of London.
Okay, good.
I was studying British politics and EU integration, which is basically how the EU came about and basically all the dramas dealing with it.
That's a very interesting story, yeah. Major event, yeah.
So I came back and St. Lawrence University, the university I'd be going back to, is upstate in Canton, New York. Extremely cold. I think this winter it got down to negative 30-something degrees. And coming from a city...
Wait a minute, negative, it got to 30 below zero?
Yeah, it's one of the coldest districts in the United
There are places up in Canada where that's the average for January. And there's a place, Irkutsk,
never heard of it.
It's in Russia. There's a place where the average temperature in the winter, I think it's like 60 degrees below zero, the average temperature for the whole winter season, and people live there.
Yeah, so New York sounded a lot nicer than anything below zero, honestly.
I know.
But it was also coming from like a world city like London is. Very like culturally diverse. I wanted to come back to a city that's culturally that was like it, because you start picking up things that you don't pick up when you're just surrounded by peers. Yeah,
right. Okay, that's good. So you do that, and then you're doing your studies that you're doing now is structural justice or
creative justice.
Creative justice. That's your major, right?
It's not my major. It's just it's kind of to fill time because I told myself I wasn't going to go back to St. Lawrence this semester. I was going to take the semester off and study at the New School. So
good. Are you there now?
I'm there now.
New School's great. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
A lot of people who are passionate about what they do. And it's a really nice platform for someone like me.
Could I ask you something? You're younger, right? And I've been through the educational thing and everything. But you're intelligent and you're thoughtful, genuinely so. You're really interested in learning and everything. You're not just there to get a diploma to get money or something. You're really interested. And the New School is very good for that, it seems to me. There's Richard Wolff is there. Are you familiar with Richard?
The economist?
He's the famous economist. He relates here too as well. But isn't it good to be able to be in a situation where you're genuinely interested in something and you're not just filling a requirement of sitting in a classroom for so many credits in order to get some diploma or something, if you understand what I mean? To be actually intellectually curious.
Because if you're actually curious about it and you want to have a knowledge about it because you want to find the answer to it, there's something in you that drives you to find the answer. Because if someone is to talk to you about something, you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, not just like when is anyone gonna ask you like in terms of a job or in terms of like what you do with your life about?
No, the placement officers. The placement officers are major corporations or job places will ask you that.
I mean,
and that's what the people, the guidance counselors at the universities are telling you to get it all straight up, because it's all about getting a job.
If you want to be guided or if you want to be placed into a job, I see what you mean. But like if you want to make your life in something that you're following something you're passionate about and you want to have the knowledge to back it. You
want to be intellectually curious on your own right.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want deadlines.
And you're interested in stuff done. Yeah, and you're also interested in things genuinely in your own way. When I was young, your age, I lived middle class, right, and everything. And we had a couple books there. There was no internet. Now you've got the whole world at your fingertips now. It's amazing. The Wikipedia alone is just amazing. But we had everybody had the Encyclopedia Britannica. And we had next to we had the Harvard Classics, the old, but there were books, and it was limited what you had access to. But now everybody has access to everything in a way that's even growing all the time. And now it's going multimedia, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're really curious, you can really run that like a hound dog running down a fox.
That's actually
self-motivated is, I guess, the term.
Yeah, but also it's changed the entire way of how we think. That's something that actually has come up in one of the classes at the new school. Yeah. Having something like Google where you could literally find out any sort of information or any answer to anything. Yeah. It changes how we think. Now very often not often do we go back to the original source that we looked at. We look at a source, we look at it for about 5 minutes, and we continue on to a different source.
Well, that's interesting. Whereas you think there's a tendency among youth more than general society that not look at the footnotes, or what?
I mean, I think...
If you're really interested, you want to get back to the source because you're really interested in what the truth is, no? You're not fulfilling a requirement that some person says you have to read pages 33 to 36 or something,
But one source is never going to tell you the entire truth. Even if they give you the entire facts, the truth isn't just facts. The truth is how people perceive facts. So you can get the same information on one site that you can on another, but it's just how it's displayed on each site.
Just look at the politics.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no real reason to go back to the original source because you get that, you hear what you're saying, and then you want to continue on to what other people think.
Spoken like a really interesting person. You usually sit in the sentence before they don't go to the sources. Now you say you don't need to go to the source. I can't quite nail you down. That's good, I think.
I mean, it provides a lot of room. Yeah. Because if there is a source that you like, there are some sources that I forget what website it is, but it can tell you everything you need to know about the stock market. Yeah. That's a source that it's like...
Oh, there's lots of those, yeah.
Yeah, but it's interactive and it's real time.
Yeah, right. And you can place bets if you want. There's some of them you can.
But there are some sources, like some writings by press, that they have their own bias, even if they're not aware of it.
Right.
So to just read from a variety of sources is good if you find a source that gives you information like no one else can. Yeah. I'm not going to just go to BBC one time because they're just one source, but if you can rely on them for good information, good insight, and a good way to look for other sources, they point you in the direction of other sources, then you continue going back to that source. Yeah,
it's a very rich environment now for people who are autodidact, people who are on their own learning. Mm-hmm. Like running it down as not according to some curriculum thing that you have to do, but on their own. And it seems to me you've done that, and I think that's wonderful. Now, what I'm going to be wanting to talk about a little bit in this election season is you are following that course at New School. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And good luck on your learning experience in and out of university or even in and out of established institutions. Go get the knowledge that you really want to do and run that sucker down. Okay? Good. Systems or detail. But now we're in the middle of an election season, and you have we got other candidates. You're not beating the drum for Mr. Trump, and you're not beating the drum for anybody in particular other than this young fellow named Bernie Sanders. How did you come to that? How does it stack up among the other scholars and the young people? You're 18, right? Mm-hmm. And the people. It seems to be it's almost universal acceptance by the youth of Mr. Sanders and what he's saying. But could you share your rendezvous with Mr. Saunders that you came to at some point, and how does that reflect your generation or your age group, as it were, do you think?
So basically, since I came back from London last semester, I've started putting together this group called Change Voting Now, which is, it's not a newspaper, it's not a website, it's basically just a monthly conversation that I try to incorporate into one email, containing like interviews I've had with different people, quotes from different people.
It's not a website.
No, like you email this email, the email is changevotingnow at gmail.com. And every month we just send you what we're thinking about, what the current problems dealing with like our voting structure that we're talking about. Each month we have a different topic. The first month that we're working on is prisoners voting. Next month is
the prison system,
voter ID laws.
It's disgusting.
It's disgusting. Voter participation and why we don't have a bigger voter turnout. But the reason I chose prison voting as the first thing.
Prison voting.
Like prisoners being able to vote.
Is
it's kind of like it's in terms of like voting regulations, it's the most interesting thing to debate because a lot of people, some people say everyone should be able to vote. Some people say when prisoners commit crimes, they're giving up their right. Some people say like nonviolent people should be able to vote, but like rapists and killers shouldn't be able to vote. But something that like if you're excluding anyone from being able to vote, you're cutting them out of society. And
that's true. Well, the prison experience can cut them out of society. They just had a fellow on Democracy Now! You know Amy Goodman?
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's got this really good program. It's in video. We're in video here, so we're into video. She's got a program, Democracy Now! And she just had there was a fellow who had been in prison maybe it was the NewsHour, been for 40 years. 40 years on a bad rap and everything, in solitary for long years. Horrible. And it's the highest rate of anywhere in the country of the world, I think, in terms of population. We got 2 million people or more in our prisons.
Millions.
I think it's more than higher than any other country in a proportion, or even in general terms or in absolute terms, than any other country. The richest country in the world, supposedly. It's big issues that are involved around prison. Who go, and then the nature of the people who go is mostly the people that are down on the economic scale and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, I'll ask you what I've asked a bunch of people last month.
Okay.
Should prisoners be able to vote?
Well, in my way of thinking, I would do it. I would have them vote. Yeah.
5.85 million people aren't able to vote because they're on prison, prison disenfranchisement lists, which basically.
Oh, those are prisons that are out. Those are people that are out of prison but are
denied voting. The majority of the 5.85 million have completed their sentence. Some of them are still incarcerated, but the majority of people who are disenfranchised from being able to vote have already served their.
But you got 5 million, that many, right?
Almost 6 million.
Well, almost 6 million.
Unable to vote, and that's just for felon voting.
Well, I know that particularly I think it's the Republican Party has done a lot to try and cut down on the rolls through state-based legislative actions that prevent people from voting or claiming voter fraud, which has to be guarded against, at the outset. And it's very outdated. It's very out of sync with what the reality is. But I know they've been trying to get people for political reasons to favor their political party.
Yeah, well, since 2000, where we had a much bigger turnout than we have in any other election. That's when laws started being passed, mainly in southern states.
Yeah, Republicans.
Yeah, Republicans. To prevent people from voting.
Yeah, right.
And that it's not just cutting prisoners from being able to vote or cutting people without an ID to vote. It's preventing preventing registration drives and creating a bunch of regulations that make it extremely difficult for any nonprofit to organize anyone to register to vote. It's preventing people from registering to vote early. But
voter registration, yeah, right.
But yeah,
yeah.
I'm trying to think what I was just about to say.
No, you were talking about you're doing this as part of your organization. You're looking at the prison thing, and particularly the right to vote.
Yeah. Basically, The email that we send out each month. I have someone.
I got a copy of that, didn't I? Yeah.
I have someone named Jamal Burgess working on it with me at the new school. He's in the class with me at Creative Justice. And I have another friend, William Gomez, who's a senior at UC Davis in California, who's studying California politics.
And you're linked by the computer or by the email and stuff?
We cross paths.
Yeah, right.
But basically, the thing that I find essential about prisoners being able to vote, or everyone being able to vote, is the more people who vote, the more problems that are put on the table that need to be addressed. And the people who want to maintain power don't want those problems to be on the table because it's a lot more easy to not address them if they don't have to.
That's a very interesting thought, particularly with Mr. Bernie in mind.
Yeah, the people who aren't able to vote, not just because of felon voting lists, because that's I think it's 1 in every 10 African Americans are incarcerated in 3 states, which is Kentucky, Virginia, and Florida. It rises as high as 1 in 5 African Americans.
Wow, yeah. Well, we did have a thing called chattel slavery for a few hundred years here, and it lingers.
I was gonna. I don't know what that is. So if you could.
Well, we had slavery. Remember?
Chattel.
Well, it was just they were the on plantations. There was slavery.
Oh, okay.
The institution of slavery. We fought a civil war over it.
Yeah, I read something yesterday that said that we're still living out the after effects of the Civil War, and I completely.
I think that's true. Yeah, it's certainly class based, and it's unjust, and it's it should be something that should be addressed. And also, I think probably it has something to do with economics. Practically everything does. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the people who are cut out by voter ID laws and felon lists are minorities, are the elderly and the youthful who have, I think, most of the population's problems, whether it's economic or educational or mainly economic or educational. But
yeah, I think economics pretty much takes in a whole lot of what is to be under discussion in terms of trying to improve the human condition.
And then it's all a part of one big equation because it's not just cutting out people from being able to vote. It's then taking the people you're left with who are able to vote and then subdividing them into districts every 10 years that we call gerrymandering, which
it happens,
swings the election very easily. I think prisoners should be able to vote because there have been national studies done that found a correlation between voter participation and reoffense. I think there are 2 states.
The more participation, the less the
If once they're out of prison, they have the ability to vote, and they
gives them a sense of dignity, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's really probably denied them often. Yeah, right.
But
and that's caring for the least among us, as Jesus used to want us to do, ignored by the Roman legions by and large, right?
But it's really interesting right now having this as a topic that I'm researching because, at the moment, there's just 2 states that allow prisoners to vote: Vermont and Maine.
Vermont's Bernie state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I think he has a much better understanding of the human condition.
Okay, well, that's good, and it fits into what you're doing research in your class and so forth. How do you see it? You're reading it, you're young and everything, you're in touch with people. How do you see the phenomena that the youth, by and large, there's exceptions, but by and large, all young people are for Bernie, it seems, almost without exception? I mean,
there's nothing I can question about it though, because
that is
why would they be for any other candidate? Bernie's the only one who if you just say to any student who hasn't been extremely biased by their family or their community to vote for Trump or Hillary or whoever else,
well, they would have been. Just inherently, you're influenced by your family more than any other institution. You have a upbringing, you were influenced by your family in your values and so forth. Their values,
they bring you up in terms of what you're going to question. Some families bring their kids up not to really question that much or really kind of live the life they live. Mm-hmm. But I think if you go to any student, non-biased, who like has no view on anything, and you say the vast majority of this country can't afford education, we're the only major country that doesn't assure every citizen has health care. We're spending.
Go on to spell it out more.
Yeah,
you're spelling Bernie's ticket, right?
We're spending a lot of money on things and places that we don't need to be spending on.
Like a lot in military?
A lot in military, a lot of like, even the voter ID regulations.
Yeah,
that's I think $3 to $4 million to regulate. And since 2000, since all these voter ID laws have been put in place, there have only been 13 cases of voter ID fraud. The Harvard law actually said
right. No, absolutely, right. I saw that.
Voter ID fraud is as likely to happen as being struck by lightning.
Exactly right. It was on television last night. Yeah,
and
that fact.
And we're like not giving a voice to a lot of people who should have a voice because we're using.
Well, by denying voices to some, that gives more power to those who do have the right to vote. So if you deny voices to people who vote not the way you want them to vote, that's to the advantage of the people who want the latter. I mean, it's largely Republicans, right?
Yeah. It's a whole mess, honestly. Like, it's hard to talk about because I could say something because I know that I could say that 2 states allow prisoners to vote, and then someone could say, oh, no, these states allow prisoners to vote.
Yeah, well, that's part of a larger pattern, the prisoner thing. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that go into the structure of our society. There's a lot of different things.
I mean, a fundamental structure of our society is that
unjust.
We're meant to be a democracy. We call ourselves a democracy, and we're fundamentally not because we, not only through laws, but through just how daily life, we don't give people a chance to vote. We don't give them more than 7 hours a year to vote for who's going to be the next president.
Yeah.
Just in terms of general, not just prison regulations, general voter regulations, it just has to be, if we're going to have Bernie as president.
Well, I don't know. That's a big jump, you know.
I hope, but if we do, I think it would be more likely under him to have an equal voice in government for everyone.
Well, he's been doing that. He's been sitting in for the civil rights right from the get-go, and he got into trouble for that. And most of the people I admire out of the history were people who sat in on the interest of Martin King and all that was trying to be done here and everything. And still we have an unjust system that is in place as it exists. You have on the other side, you have Mr. Trump, who's talking about massive change also. He's talking about massive change. He doesn't seem to appeal to the youth as much. He has a huge group, a contingent that he has great affection
the fearful.
From. Yeah, well, there's a lot and everything. But they're both talking about questioning the political establishment. And so how does youth, you're speaking for youth, I'm speaking for old age, you know. But how does the youth deal with the fact of Mr. Trump? Why are they not flocking to him, or are they, or what's the reality? He's also a change vehicle, is what he's saying, from and not giving abeyance to the established political organization order.
The reason I don't support Trump, there are a lot of reasons. I'm trying to think.
I can think of many.
To give you, is. The main reason he's playing off of people's fear. He's not giving anyone an actual substantive answer to the problems that we face.
That's interesting. Don't you think all politicians are playing off people's fear as well as their aspirations?
I think they do, but some are misplaced, some are not. Yeah. Mexicans aren't causing our problems, not all of our problems. They're causing an immigration problem, but what country doesn't have
people see they're losing their jobs to they're going to be losing jobs by roboticization and a lot of things that are going on. That's a major problem that isn't being addressed by any of our political systems, still distributing income only by labor criteria. That's another issue that is not being addressed by the political or intellectual leadership of the world or the country.
The most basic reason I don't support Trump is because he would group Mexicans into one group and call them rapists and killers.
Yeah, that's a little bit overdrawn.
I don't think I really need to go much further than that because anyone actually standing in for our country and representing our country, I wouldn't want to have someone representing our
What
country
about the
that.
arguments from Miss Hillary Clinton, that she's got experience and she knows the generals and she knows the way the system works and all of that?
She does.
Bernie's been in the Congress and the Senate. He knows that pretty well and everything. But she knows and is connected with all the major players, as they say, and has the experience. So why wouldn't that make you be able to, in the wisdom of this great power and the world that needs so many questions that have to be done politically, to go for a woman who would be much better able to navigate the whole power structure that's based in Washington and the connections that go out to the rest of the society?
I'm going to refer to my notebook for this just so I don't mess it up.
Yeah.
So, under Hillary Clinton, the State Department approved $165 billion worth of commercial arms sales to 20 nations whose governments had given millions to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, well, they support, by and large, the military. The military has an almost unlimited budget, it would seem, and and that's something that's what they call sacrosanct, almost, in the political establishment of Washington, given the overall structure, Republican and Democrat.
But do you think that there should be that much? It's kind of like separating church from state. Do you think we should?
No, that's another big issue. Yeah. Historically, particularly,
make efforts to separate money and state?
Well, I think it's impossible. I've tried and everything, but I think it's almost impossible because money is the major thing that motivates the human condition. Is, I think, money. I mean, that's the lubricant that it makes the world go round, and it's changing, and that's another issue beyond what's able to be brought up, because that's maybe what's actually going on. We're getting to where there is enough, where there's major changes going on, and we don't have a political system that allows to address that in a way that it deserves, because of a lag out of history and a commitment to the institutions out of history that we're in abeyance to the Constitution and the other issues that we have that we're used to and we're accustomed to and the political establishment represents. And change, major change, is very hard always to make into a new way that is being heralded and maybe being picked up on intuitively or otherwise by the youth. There's something new needed and it's just not coming forth. But it's being touted as such by both Mr. Bernie and Mr. Trump. Is it not? Maybe that's just the idealism of youth or something. Or songs of innocence, but William Blake had songs of innocence and songs of experience, you know.
I wouldn't say Trump and Bernie are focusing on completely different problems that they're trying to fix. It's just how they're going about it. Bernie's about bringing people together, and Trump is about putting the blame on someone else.
Well, Trump's getting some very big crowds, and he's running the Republicans ragged with his thing. He's upsetting a whole lot of traditional.
The only thing that means it means that people are scared. That people listen.
Well, yeah, people are scared.
The only thing he's doing is playing off of people's fear. He's not giving any actual understanding of the human condition.
Well, he said he'll go and make good deals, and he'll build a wall.
He's going to,
and he will say, take 11 million people and throw them back to Mexico. I mean, he's making propositions, and he's getting results from a fearful society that thinks Washington is getting in the way and is lax at doing what's needed. They need a leader who can really bargain hard with the other countries, and they're just running us ragged by outmaneuvering us as terms of business bargaining. That's his theme.
Trump isn't your average politician.
No, he's not.
And he's not. I wouldn't even call him a politician because I don't think he knows how to lead. Because if you look at his track record in terms of any business he's ever owned, Trump University, it's a joke. Like,
well,
the only thing that really is valuable for him is his name, because he can sell his name to a hotel, and he doesn't even own the building that the hotel is.
He's just got this thing right down from this building is the huge complex he's got here from 59th Street all over on the river and the Hudson all the way up to 72nd. It's a huge project that he's involved in. He's pulled off these deals, and he's made good deals. And he said he can deal better, and the people are not able to make good business deals. He's a good business negotiator, and that's what the country needs. A businessman that can negotiate with the other people of the world and get our just desserts for this country rather than be led around by Democrats who are just mamby-pamby and catering to the lesser people of the world, more or less?
First, I'll say that the building that you're referring to, I would put money on it that he has very little actual economic ties with the profits that building turns. I would say
will turn, yeah, it's future. You can say,
will turn.
That's a general metaphor. You're going to get earnings out of the investment from the earnings that the investment represents relative to the future. That's limited to very few people who can be involved in the initial stage of getting assets that relate to the future earnings of the thing, because most people don't have any money to put up.
I hear what you're saying, but there's nothing imaginative or creative that Trump is doing for that building. He's not designing anything or hiring anything.
No, he's making the deal.
He's selling them their name because his name will attract customers. That's it.
He's been very successful. He flies around in his own jet plane.
Because people will pay him to put his name.
And he gets vast crowds, and people love him.
If he had his original name,
20,000 people will be there. It just seems Trump. They'll love it.
Do you think if he had his original name, his family name, which was Drumph, D-R-U-M-P-H, do you think he would have that jet? Do you think he would have...
I think it was a good idea to change it to Trump if you're going to be a politician.
Exactly.
Trump is far better in the ads and so forth than Trump. How do you pronounce that? How do you pronounce that name? Trump. Trump? No, I don't think that they would. I would, if I were a politician, I would change it to Trump.
If you were a businessman, would
you? If I were a businessman, I'd change my name to Trump. You got it all over the airplane. You're flying around.
Because that's Trump. What people
you know, I got an idea for you. I got a friend, my person who's producing this, a great advocate of the game of bridge. Do you play bridge? Great game.
Oh, I've never played it.
It's a great game. And I'll tell you something. In bridge, no Trump is higher than Trump. You know, you got clubs, spades, and the highest is Trump. And then if you do no Trump, that's over Trump.
No Trump.
So that could be used. That could be used by the Democrats or something like that somehow. But they don't seem to be doing that. But the Republican Party, the established party, is worried sick that he might actually run away with this thing.
Even if he was elected, like.
Okay.
I don't even want to think about that.
Well, okay.
I'm
just asking, what's the source of these people? It's a source of alienation from what's going on, and a sense that nothing's happening to answer you still got all those people in prison. You have got that. You haven't got housing. You've got all kinds of injustice still there. Even though the Democrats have been there for 7 years, they haven't done anything. That's what he would say. They're just falling all over themselves, being ineffectual because they don't know how to make a good deal to get the goods for the people.
That's the
that he said itself. He can do. You know? Yeah, right.
It's people wanting to hold on to power and not doing the ethical thing to maintain power. And that, I think, if the ethical thing was done and people could agree on the ethical thing and not have to worry about getting elected a second term or.
Yeah, but they do.
They do.
Yeah.
But they make decisions because of how it will be seen in the public eye, not because of how many people it will help. And I think Bernie's about helping people.
Well, how about
and Trump's about casting the blame.
Well, that's a loaded attitude to take. That's okay. You got that view. I mean, the people who follow Trump would say the same about Trump, and Bernie's they all would
Trump's
say.
Trump's trying to help them.
Yeah.
Trump's trying to help people, but he's
also getting a lot of people who are alienated from the society, or they feel if they weren't alienated, they wouldn't be so against the system in place. It's ineffectual.
I'm
even
thinking
though
of the KKK when you say that, because who are you saying who's alienated, who supports Trump?
Well, people who, by and large, have a sense about how this country is going backwards. We're being inundated with the runaway people coming from Mexico. Everything is bad because the administration that's in place is Democrat. And it's their fault because they're ineffectual. And he, with his people and what he could do, making good deals and leading in a way with all the things that can be done. And that metaphor is relevant to the future. I think, the idea that we're missing opportunity for providing for everybody, including those prisoners that we started talking about that are being maltreated, and the injustice at that level and at all levels for the blacks and that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? There's if you weren't upset with what is, you wouldn't be getting all fired up to be in favor of Trump, who wants to challenge it all and say it's the government that's at fault.
I respect him challenging it. I just don't respect how he's going about doing it. Like, you say he's going to make deals, or he says he's going to make deals, but like, you see the correspondence between him and the either it was the ex or vice president of Mexico, and he keeps saying that Mexico.
Vicente Fox?
Yeah.
Well, some people see metaphors with Mussolini and Hitler and fascism. That's what a lot of people are worried about.
I'm just talking about the deal that he was saying that Mexico is going to build the wall and pay for it.
Yeah. 10 feet higher. Because
he came out and he said we're not going to buy that.
And you know what I think a lot of people like about, I want to get to Bernie more for him, but a lot of people like, because he seems confident, and also you notice he talks spontaneously. He doesn't have bullet points and things and a well buttoned down mind like that. He just talks right off the top.
He's entertainment.
Yeah, it is entertaining, but it also gives an air of confidence that he knows what he's talking about, and he flies in on a big thing with the name Trump.
I think his jumbo jet, I think he's compensating for something on that, and I think in terms of like having anything to like any knowledge of really anything, I think if you say you'll get a lot done, people will support you, but I haven't heard much of what he's actually.
Well, I tell you, he's got an awful lot of. He's got all the delegation now. He's probably going to pull it. This is election day, right? This is big day Tuesday, right? A
lot of people are scared.
And we're going to get the results when we go home tonight. And he may have carried and gotten it. And he's going to. Anyway, let's stop. We've talked with about Mr. Trump and everything. He's an interesting guy. He seems like anyway. But what about Mr. Bernie? Now, how long have you been aware of him? What's your sense of your fellow age group? The 20 years old or 8 teenagers and that. Have such an affection for him, and how do you see him, and how do you see your coterie, the youth, have such affection for him? Because as opposed to Mr. Trump says we got to change everything in a certain way, Mr. Bernie says we got to change things in a different some kind of way, and now we've been talking about Mr. Trump's way, and now how about you talking about Bernie's way as you see it, and your colleagues, your fellow age group, and see it. Because it seems to be almost universal among the youth. Acceptance or support
I
of
think if
Bernie.
there's anyone in this political race that has any idea of what it is to be someone not born into a political family or born into a wealthy family that might lead to becoming a politician, someone whose father came over at 17, immigrated here when he was 17,
from Poland.
Yeah, grew up as a carpenter, didn't get a skip work to just study and make the connections.
Well, he was a loser.
I mean,
a bunch of losers.
In terms of
I'm sorry, I'm just joking. That was a sick joke on my part.
In terms of what the media is making him out to be, a lot of the time, he still is a loser, but he's like our loser. He's the loser that's actually fighting for us, even if. So
the people who are losers or see themselves as losers will support Hillary, but they will support Bernie, but they won't support Trump. I think they don't want to get on the side of the winner.
I think if you call yourself a winner,
yeah,
I think you're likely to vote for Trump because I think if you want to think of yourself as a winner, he's saying, "I will think of you as a winner if you vote for me."
Or I'll make you a winner.
Or I'll make,
all you losers,
you're saying, I want to be a winner.
All you losers, I'm going to make you winners by following my sterling example. But now what about Bernie? Bernie is from Polish, and he's got a great civil rights thing. He's got a great record in terms of the least advantaged people in our society, Hispanics and so forth. And so what is the youth thinking about him? They have a sense
He's the most committed in terms of creating a closer equality in the United States, whether it's economic or just social.
Now, if you get, let's test that word you said, equality. Equality is good for the people who are less advantaged because they're going to get more. But those who are advantaged might be not so interested in having less equality. I mean, having less inequality because they gain by the inequality that gives them great riches and airplanes they can fly around in with the name Trump on it.
Well,
they don't want equality. They want, the perks.
It depends on how you get those perks, though, because, But like Bernie doesn't want to take money from the rich and give it to the poor. It's really not that simple, nor should it be. But like there are just some things that wouldn't directly affect the generation that made the money. But say,
well, he would attack. Don't you see? Every time he turns around, he said, "We're going to tax them. They got all this money, and they ought to be taxed like they deserve." That probably makes the Koch brothers and others sort of get bent out of shape.
But if you're talking
and the Republican establishment, because it's okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But like, he would have a more progressive tax. That's true, but it wouldn't be such an evil tax that it would not make sense to want to make money anymore. Like he would have a heavy estate tax, so when a billionaire passes on, the next generation doesn't get all the money by not having to do any of the work. He wants to focus on closing tax havens like the Cayman Islands, so people just can't put all their money there and not pay.
But the people are operating and making big deals and everything where they want to be able to hide their money from the government that's just taking it from them illegitimately.
That's a human condition, though. No, but it's not right.
Well, it is a human condition.
A civil society is based off of mutual preservation.
But that's what it is. And it's there now, and it's gone to such dimensions where, what are the figures on the wealth of the 1% or something, and 88 or something, or it's the money is all the money. Bernie says all the money that's coming through their capital assets are going to the 1%.
Yeah, the 6 largest financial institutions own assets equivalent to 60% of the U.S.'s GDP.
That is absurd.
They issue
and it's growing in that direction.
Yeah, the top 3 actually that we bailed out in 2008, they're bigger than they were when we bailed them out.
Yeah, yeah.
But they issue 2/3 of the credit cards and 30% of the mortgages, and they basically control our economy. And
yeah, right.
And we shouldn't.
And they like it that way, I guess. You know, I mean, they don't want to be put in jail or anything. Nobody went in jail at the time of the bailout. You know,
I think 1 or 2.
I don't think anyone went to jail. I don't think they paid and made big payments, and they did something. Dodd-Frank came and all that, but I don't think anybody. Well, anyway, go ahead. I'm talking again. Bernie again. What's he proposed for them if he wins? Sounds to me like he's going to tax the bejesus out of them, because they got all that money, and he's going to try and hide and make it so they can't hide them in the Cayman Islands. So their way of doing business and making deals is going to be challenged from this guy coming up from Poland.
Honestly, I can't speak for Bernie in this, and I can't speak.
No, but you're backing.
But for me,
okay, good. But you are backing Bernie in a sense. You're backing Bernie, and you're representing youth.
It's the only reason I would do anything like this.
Yeah.
It's not just about taxation. It is, but it's also giving the next generation and more people the ability to make those deals and not just give it to this one small group of people who are making deals. Personally, I think no one really needs more than, let's say, $5 billion, but there are people who own hundreds of billion dollars who just that it becomes unnecessary, and to say, no, actually they deserve all of that money. Mm-hmm. Money makes money, and if you have $1 billion, you can make a couple $1 million more.
Yeah, because you can invest in investments that are going to pay for themselves out of their future earnings. You use swaps and derivatives to get rid of the risk margin that's there. So it's just a fixed game that is really beneficial to those who have the money.
So they have that advantage. Why not give the advantage to the people who don't have $1 million loan?
Because that would take away their privileged environment. They don't want that. They didn't want to do away when we made a revolution over here on the basis of the Enlightenment in the United States with Jefferson and all that. We made a thing from the sense of political legitimacy that it held for about 1,000 years in Europe based upon hereditary of royal families. And we made a revolution talking about democracy or the people or something, and they were really angry because we were making a different change in terms of the historical pattern that they had come out of.
Why?
So we're going through that now.
Why did
this country is? Pardon?
Why did we leave Britain?
Well, the people left Britain probably. Well, I don't know. They were persecuted. They thought better opportunity or whatever. The people went to a new country or a new continent, as they did, but they were setting up a new order that was came down at Yorkville And you overthrew it, and then they came and bombed us in 1812. Remember, they came and burned the White House? They were angry with you coming over and overthrowing their system based upon hereditary families. They still have a queen or something, but you know what I'm saying. And now if you have a change where you're going to not let them go to the Cayman Islands and do that and the means by which they can gain
they
these
can
great
go to the
things.
Cayman Islands. I'm just saying they can't
hide money. No,
yeah.
Not go there as a tourist, but I'm saying they go there with their money and hide it and stay away from the tax man who's taking all the money that they're making on their assets and everything. And the assets are all owned by a tiny plutocratic class that gives them the ability to make an investment that'll pay for itself out of its future earnings rather than only from past savings. And then that they will be able to expand their control of the economy. So that's a model that doesn't want to be changed. He would challenge that. It seems to me what he said, he doesn't give great details.
If we can slightly lower and decrease the advantages for multi-billion-dollar
multi-billionaires. Yeah, right. Amazing. Comes off the tongue.
How much do you think that would affect their daily life if, say, even if we taxed someone who had $50 billion every year, we tax them $1 million.
I don't know. I'm not in those boardrooms where you're making those decisions, but they do fight like dogs over, a 1/4 point difference in a rate or something. They fight over the little details or the ways in which they can enhance their.
Greedy.
Are the people who want justice greedy for the poor?
No.
Justice is a multi.
But if taxing slightly heavily the 1% is going to have a very small effect on their daily life, but it will allow
it's daily life, like the house and things. Yeah, right.
Yeah, like the house, but it's do you need a 32-room house, 32-bedroom house, or could you be
I want it. That's all. I want a 50-room house.
Some people want
I need a bigger garage for all my cars, and I got a place to park my yachts. I want more, yeah.
Some people want to
that's
kill people or torture animals, and that's their means of happiness.
That's a different thing.
There's certain regulations that...
Do you think we should limit the amount? I mean, what about Bernie? Let's keep it back on Bernie.
Yeah.
He's not very. He spells it out well. I suppose that sells well to the youth and everything about how unjust the system is with all the money going to the top, the way it is. And now he wants to change that. The people who are enjoying that position at the top probably don't want him to be able to be in a position to challenge them or to change it because they got all the advantage. But he wants to do that. Do you think there's something in the population that would like to see or sense that there is a need of a qualitative change in the way the economy runs?
That's exactly
right. You think that's in the... So then that means revolution might be in the air. He's talking about a revolution.
Exactly.
He's talking about a qualitative change, not just a little change of the deck chairs.
A shift from normality.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is...
I mean, it seems to me he's trying to say that, Bernie is.
Even if we severely, heavily tax the 1%, now they would still have a lot of advantages that no one else has, but we would be giving advantages like free education, free health care to our citizens that don't have it. And the people who are in these powerful positions with a lot of money, they have a strong following because they have made it. They have made all of that money. So if they attack Bernie for saying that they're going to take away our money, the people who are listening to them because they're successful and they made the name for themselves.
Yeah. So follow the leader. Don't follow the losers.
But
that's what their theme would be.
But they can never
follow the winner.
They can never be the leader if they're only following the leader, and they can never be the leader if they have no possibility to ever become the leader. And they'll never become the leader if they don't have education. They'll never become the leader if they don't have living wage.
Yeah, well, now you got living wage. You could have that. You could have a minimum wage, that kind of thing. You got a lot of socialist things. He's called a socialist by
Democratic
some.
Socialist.
Democratic socialist and everything. It's interesting, isn't it, though? We got an election season with all these things. The condition of the world is just amazingly pregnant, might be saying. There's something needed, and both on the Republican side, you got a guy who's talking about we got to have major change vis-a-vis the system in place, much to the chagrin of the establishment forces within the established way, of the Republican Party who are in the Senate and the House and in positions of responsibility who are just desperately trying to head him off. They do not want to hear what he's saying because they represent the established way of doing things in a Republican way, if you understand, and including the government, the workings of the Congress, the committees, and all that kind of stuff of knowledge. And on the Democratic side, you got the same. You got Hillary Clinton, who represents the established ways. Let's go invade Libya. Let's go invade Iraq. She's very much on the side of invading nations, thrusting power, being back into the idea of power and everything the traditional way, nests with the established way, and she's a choice. They don't have unless you get Kasich or something going just in favor of the normal way in the Republican. And then you got Bernie, but on both sides, the major focus is on people who are talking about we got to have a change and a challenge to the way things are now in a fundamental revolutionary way, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel that in the youth, we need a fundamental change from the ideas that have motivated us over the last 50, 100 years or so.
Yeah.
Okay, and the youth feels ready for that? Do you think, or the people that represent the people who follow Bernie or listen to him with favor, want massive change. They're not trying to get security within the way that it has been by one bill that's going to give something, like that, or the manipulation that it's ineffectual. The system that's in place with all the checks and balances and all the things that go on, the political game playing and all the rest of it, is ineffectual to what's needed. That's what Bernie's trying to say. And I think maybe Mr. Trump's trying to say that. It's interesting.
Yeah, no, like, I said it earlier, like, the inequality that Trump is talking about and the inequality that Bernie is talking about isn't too distant related. Like they're pretty close in terms of what they're talking about. It's just how they say they can solve it. Bernie's saying we can give hope to our next generation, provide them with some advantages that they haven't been given in previous generations. Actually create a government where people are heard and people are talked to and problems are listened to, rather than cutting people who have the problems, cutting out the elderly, the youthful, the minorities who are experiencing higher levels of incarceration or unemployment or whatever.
Yeah, so the dialectic goes on between the...
we have a dialogue between them. We don't just say, it's these people who are causing these problems, and by cutting all of them out from the country, we don't allow them in, the problem will be solved. And if you're scared enough of losing your job, that's what you're worrying about.
Or elemental security, whatever. Yeah, right. So we got a couple of people who want to see massive change and a whole lot of people in the established order that don't want to see it. They want to bring it about by good legislation and by good thoughts and that kind of thing. The system in place is okay. It should be supported and undergirded. We've got to have some... you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. People are in favor of the status quo context to us going forth in the years ahead. Are in favor of Hillary and of other possibles from the Republican coterie, and then the ones who are in favor of that are in favor of Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, on that side of go the course the way it is, and we can have some change, even though the changes we've been trying to see have been inadequate and have landed in some place where there's this whole vast array of people in the country who think we need a massive change.
I actually brought with me a video.
Oh, yes, by all means. Let's see. Can we do that? Let's do it. We're doing this. Jake Ruehl. Okay. Let's run that piece. There we go. We're running. If you can pump it in here, I'd like to do it. This is 3 minutes. We're just not going to. We'll just make it. Okay. Can you know what he's saying? Well, we'll shut up because they can hear us, maybe. Don't talk.
Occasionally you have the kids working, and we still don't have enough money to pay the bills. Something is fundamentally wrong about that. The problems we face did not come down from the heavens. They are made by bad human decisions. And good human decisions can change them. It is time that the United States of America join the rest of the industrialized world and guaranteed health care to all people as a right, not a privilege. Given the incredible wealth and income inequality in America today, we need fair elections, which means public funding of elections. My Republican friends just decided to put another $38 billion into the military. Maybe we can cut military spending a little bit and put it into education. 100 years ago, women didn't even have the right to vote. Change takes place because people struggle. Within the next month, I will introduce legislation that will make every public college and public university tuition free. I am in this business because I have 4 beautiful kids and I have 7 beautiful grandchildren. And like you, I want to make sure that the world that we leave them is a beautiful world where people can live full and dignified lives. I don't want to see a world where people are struggling and stepping all over each other. And we can do it. We can provide health care to all of our people. We can create decent paying jobs. We can reverse climate change and transform our energy system. We can raise wages. We can make sure that every person in this country gets the education they need and desire. This is not some type of utopian dream. It can happen. It really can. But it will not happen unless we stand up and fight back for not only ourselves, but for our kids and future generations. Let's do it.
Okay, well, let's see. Okay, we got a couple minutes. Okay, well, that's interesting. That was a take on him. It's an interesting take.
So basically, just to say what I want to say, what he's promising: free healthcare, free education. It's what a lot of industrial countries have already done, and I think it will be done here too. It's just whether it's going to be done this election or the next election.
It's the tide of history in your view.
It's something that has to be done for our society to function.
Just as sure as we had to have the Voter Rights Act and things like that gets slipping back and forth. So it's a time of that. So anyway, thank you really very much. I'm sorry we could go on talking. I've been talking too much, I think. But Bernie Sanders is an amazing phenomena. And we're going to all go home. This is the 15th. What's the date today? This is the 15th of March. Yesterday was my birthday. But this is the 15th of March, and we're all going to be going home to see what happens with all these offended Ohio and so forth. And it's interesting to study. It's been a heck of a campaign so far. Got a prediction on who's going to be our candidates and who's going to be our president come the new year?
Bernie's going to win.
You do think?
I've been saying this for 3 months.
You think he's got a chance to win? Well, a lot of it will come out whether that's possible out of what we report. Maybe it's already in the die been cast because it's almost time to close the voting polls here on March 15th. But at least we've had a little take about the youth and with me intervening. Jake, thank you so very much. Your pleasure to have his perception. And as you can see, he's a student of creative justice. I didn't know they had such a major, but that's really good. Thank you for viewing. We're coming back again tomorrow. Thanks a lot. And once again, Jake, thanks for coming in. Great pleasure.
Thank you.
Let's stay in touch.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you very much. Coming back tomorrow.